Well, we're back. Welcome to the third, fourth, whatever episode of the Pitbox Podcast. I'm Clack, and of course, with
Yo,
me is Phil. Phil, how you doing? It's been a week. Missed last week. We were both out of town and all.
yeah,
How you doing?
July 4th, man. Greatest country on earth.
It is. I agree. I agree. So how you been?
I'm good, man. Good. I was able to maybe catch the highlights on the interwebs, but I didn't get to see the races, man. So tell me about them. I heard who won.
Man, that was the last week's races. I'll start with the SRX was boring last week to me. It feels like ever since Tony got mad, it's not been what it is.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was you or it was either you or my mom once sent me. Well, that was definitely not my mom because my mom loves Tony Stewart. I think it was you that said like SRX is not going to go past 2023, and I fully believe that. It got so boring. Tony's complaining about the cars and stuff. They're not even racing aggressive.
The only way it lasts past 2023 is they got to get some more funding. They got to get some buyers, bigger sponsors. They got to get people investing in it.
Get some more tracks, get some more drivers. By now, next year after that, you'll have a couple other big names possibly.
And you need to get them full time. You can't get them in and out.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Was a boring race. Bobby Labonte gets his first win since 2006, 2005, I believe. It's been a long time since we've seen Bobby Labonte in victory lane. Ironically, it was his second win at Nashville. He won the last national NASCAR race there, and then wins his first SRX race there last Saturday. So very good track for Bobby Labonte.
I was happy to see him win, man. I've always liked Bobby Labonte.
Yeah, I've always liked the Labontes. They're cool, but Bobby gets his win. Big win for him, especially points wise in SRX. Him and Newman and Stewart are up there battling for the points title in SRX. But SRX was not the highlight of the weekend, honestly. Usually it has been, but last week at Atlanta, Chase Elliott had a great day and then falls back to fourth on a late race restart. And this is where it gets a little crazy.
Don't be dogging my man now, buddy. Come on now.
That was a good finish.
I liked it, man. I felt bad for Corey LaJoy, bro. I wanted him to kind of pull it out.
Gets a good start. But Chase Elliott gets a run on the outside, gets by, and on the final lap, Corey LaJoy going for the win. Chase Elliott throws a little bit of a late block. I don't know if it was a late block or if LaJoy just kind of the inexperience hurt him there. LaJoy gets wrecked.
I think it's a little bit of both. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It was a late block, but Chase gets the win. Caution did come out. I do think that if caution doesn't come out, him and Ross Chastain battle back to the line, but the caution comes out, Chase Elliott gets the win. His third win of the season. He is having
back to back.
No, he didn't. No, almost back to back. It was Elliott.
Yeah, that's right. Rick won the week before that. Yeah.
Elliott, Riddick, Elliott. Chase gets his third win in the last month, I believe, second win in the last month. Solidifies his points lead. He's probably going to win the regular season title, but Hendrick has been on fire lately, especially Chase Elliott.
Yeah, Byron's been pretty good, man. Bowman just hangs around. The person, to be honest, is doing the worst is Kyle Larson.
I agree.
Shockingly enough, man. It's like the Madden curse. You win the championship, and then afterwards, it's just like, beep.
I agree. It's really affected him.
But I'm going to tell you right now, they better be happy Chase Elliott won, because if Chastain would have won that thing, you'd have had some pissed off people.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. I mean,
yeah.
Ross has gotten where he seems to be a one-man wrecking crew lately, but,
and I don't think it's all intentional, but I think he has inexperience, and Trackhouse outperformed when it comes to the quality of their car, and I think he wasn't ready for it. And I think it's causing him problems.
I don't necessarily agree there. I think Ross is a great driver. I think, 2 wins in a team that didn't exist last year. I think Ross is a great driver. I don't know if it's the car.
Valid.
I don't know if it's the car is just not handling well and kind of getting a little bit loose with him, or if he's just not really learned boundaries yet and how to kind of control.
That's probably more the case, yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, you know, it is, and I do consider Atlanta's the plate race without the plates basically now. There's restrictor plates, so
I do kind of like it, man. You still got the
I love
drafting,
it.
you got the
I
pushing.
love
I
it.
loved it.
But to go to something you said a moment ago, you said that Kyle Larson, talking about his struggles. It seems like you go back and look at the past since 2012.
Right.
There's not been a driver win the most races in back-to-back seasons. It's just unheard of as the competition gets tighter. Kyle Larson has struggled. He's got to win, so he's going to make the playoffs unless something bizarre happens, and he should at least make the second run of the playoffs. But if you're ranking drivers at Hendrick now, is Kyle Larson even your top driver at Hendrick anymore?
No, Kyle Larson's at least 3 or 4.
I think he's put him at 3.
I think he's better than Bowman. I think your top one right now is Chase Elliott, followed by William Byron.
Agreed. I totally
but they're neck and neck, to be honest with you, man. They're neck and neck.
I was even kind of questioning, what if, let's say Willie B goes on to win it. I would not be surprised to see Willie B win a championship this year, especially if Elliott doesn't.
How many races we got left before the points?
Right, and he's had bad luck lately, but he's been very consistent. How safe is Larson, especially with guys like Kyle Busch looking for a right? Well, Kyle Busch back to the 5 would be so ironic.
Yeah, but, see, if I'm looking at this right, the point standing right now, there is 3 drivers, 14th, 15th, 16th in the points, that if they each get a win before the points race, that's it. We've got 16 different drivers, and we talked about this in the first episode. 16 different drivers potentially with a win. That hadn't happened, I don't think, since the new point system come out. I think that probably the first time you got 16 different drivers in it because they won, not because of the points.
Well, I do think we get a new winner on Sunday.
I do too. I agree.
So I think that's going to make things a little bit crazier going forward. But it seems like it's so hard to be consistent in NASCAR. You go from winning 10 races to winning 1. Kevin Harvick won 10 races, hasn't won a race since. Denny Hamlin won 9 races that year, has won 3 last year, has won 2 this year.
Yeah,
consistency is tough, and I think it's getting to a point where it's a cutthroat league to where you don't win. I don't care who. It's like you watch soccer. If you watch, especially like non-US leagues, if you don't win, I don't care if you won 3 or 4 championships. You don't win for a year, you're on the hot seat. I think NASCAR's becoming that because Kyle Busch.
You think Larson's on the hot seat next year if he didn't win?
I think definitely, and I think Kyle Busch is all. Kyle Busch is not necessarily on a hot seat. He's just having a hard time getting a deal, getting a sponsor. But, it's just simply if you're not winning every week or being consistent, you're in trouble in NASCAR, it seems.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be consistent. It's hard to be consistent.
Yeah, it is. It's very hard. Very, very hard.
What do you think happens if, I'm going a little bit off the limb here, what happens for, guys like Larson? Did we all overhype him last year?
I don't think so. I think he's been like a Ross Chastain. I don't think when he was at Ganassi he had the best equipment in the world. I always thought he was a good race car driver. I mean, you look at him in the modifieds when he was out. When he was out, he was winning, man. Like every single week. I mean, every race he was pretty. I mean, he racked up like 40 wins or something crazy like that. So I think he's a good race car driver. I think. Putting him in Hendrick helped him with the equipment. I just think, man, he's having bad luck. I just think he's trying to get used to this new car. But I think once he does, I think he'll be okay. But it's like a football coach, you get 2 years and then you got to make something happen, and so right now he's got to figure this thing out by next year, or next year is going to pose a problem.
Yeah, I agree.
Whether he's a good racer or not, whether you think that that's out of the window. If you can't figure this car out, then you're gonna have a problem.
It seems like the new car has really played on his downfall a lot. I mean, he's still a great
and a lot of drivers like Kyle Busch, man, he complains about a lot with the shifter, because it's just a vertical shifter instead of the H.
I agree with him.
Yeah,
the new car it's great, more competitive, but man, it's been hard to get used to.
Yeah. It's caused a lot more problems, I think, than they thought.
Going on to this week, well, kind of gonna go to Ray. We always do our throwback race. Our throwback race ties into the actual race this week. Last year in New Hampshire, I know you had said you didn't remember what happened. So last year in New Hampshire, we're getting ready to go green. NASCAR NASCAR control says that it had been raining and it was still supposed to rain. We go green. NASCAR control says we're good to go. We were not good to go. Um, we go green and go into the corner, and the leaders all start wrecking. Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, all started wrecking
Right.
because we were clearly not good to go because of the rain. Kyle Busch wrecks, then proceeds to attempt to spin the pace car.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
Ever. But
it's the roll tide moment, man.
it was. Eric Almirola goes on to win the race, and the reason I mention this is because New Hampshire seems to be a Ford-dominated track.
Yeah, I agree.
Does that continue? Because when you look at the Fords, there's not a Ford that has been consistent this year other than Joey Logano.
Yeah, he's not my pick to win this race, but if I had to pick a Ford driver to win the race, it would be Kevin Harvick.
Interesting.
Because to me, he's not consistent. I mean, they're not. None of them have really consistently won, consistently ran great, but he's at least done very similar in every race. He's finished around the same spot. He's had he's consistently been the best Ford, in my opinion, him and Logano on the track.
Great.
I just don't like Logano. So, but I feel like if you had to pick a Ford driver, it'd be one of those two. Now, I don't think either I'm going to win. That's not my pick. But if I had to pick between the Ford, it'd be one of those two for sure. Yeah.
I think, it seems like with the new car, I don't know if that continues, but I do think it's time for some. I don't think Chevy just continues this dominant trend that they've been on unless it's Kyle Larson. I don't think it's going to be Chase Elliott this week. I don't think Chevy continues this dominant trend this week specifically. I think we will see a Toyota or a Ford in victory lane on Sunday. But what are your, what do you think is going to have? What do you think is New Hampshire's going to be like under the new car? New Hampshire's never been that much of a competitive track. New car now, how do you think it's going to change?
It's going to be tough to know, man, because nobody's really been there. I mean, they haven't been there in the new car. I mean, they didn't test it much. They don't know much about how it's going to react to it. There's not really a track in NASCAR that they've already raced on that's similar to this because, it's almost a flat racetrack. I mean, literally. I mean, the corners are banked the straightaways are banked at 1 degree. The corners are 2 to 7 degrees. I mean, it's a flat racetrack, and so it's very hard to dive into a corner and pass, and it's just a hard racetrack to navigate. And so, unless I feel like more this week, even though it's a new car, I feel like your experience and your knowledge is going to come in more handy than necessarily your ability to race a car, or than the car itself. So I feel like knowledge and experience will come in handy, knowing how to drive it, where you got to be, what lane to be in. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting race because it's, like I said, it's probably the flattest track in NASCAR.
I agree. It's going to be a good race, I think. Hopefully more competitive than usual. Qualifying's tomorrow, so we'll see. Getting the pole can go a long way, as we saw at Atlanta. Can go a long way helping you win. But before we get into our NASCAR pick of the night, SRX tomorrow night, the fifth race of the year, next to the last race of the year.
Yeah, dirt track, baby. First dirt track.
Finally a dirt track. Tell us about the track and then who you think wins it.
Track is the name of it, man. It's a long name. It is. Let's see what it is here. It is the I-55 Speedway, but it's listed as. Oh, I had it and I lost it. But it's like the Federated Auto I-55 something. I mean, crazy. It's a long name, but it's co-owned by Ken Schrader. I did not know that. Yeah, for 2 decades, him and Ray Marler, who I know nothing about, have owned it. And this week they didn't really get necessarily a driver. I mean, he races, but they didn't necessarily get the ringer. They got Ken Schrader. So Ken Schrader's jumping in the driver's seat this week to race. The track, man, is a interesting track. It's a quarter of a mile. It's not big at all. I mean, it's tiny. And let's see what they said. Quarter of a mile, 19-degree banked in the straightaways, 10 degrees in the corners. You could go anywhere from a 10 to 15-second lap. When Kyle Larson was actually out, speaking of Kyle Larson winning, when Kyle Larson was actually out in 2020 from being suspended from NASCAR, he holds the record for breaking the 10-second barrier lap time at a 9.995 at about 119 miles per hour. So you can pick up some speed with this car and in this track. So I expect some speed, but like I said, man, it's going to be hit the gas, hit the brake, hit the gas, hit the brake the whole entire night. But my pick's Ken Schrader. I think Kenny, man, he knows the track. Like I said, he's been there 20 years. And why not go for the new guy? Why not? Let's go. I've always liked Ken Schrader. He's always been good for NASCAR. And I was going to go Marco Andretti, but I just don't think he'll pull it off. I think it's going to be Ken Schrader because Andretti right now actually sits second in the points in front of Newman and Tony Stewart. And that's neck and neck. But yeah, Ken Schrader's my guy. I think it's going to be an interesting race, man. It's going to be on dirt. It's going to be fun. They're going to get some sliding in, and maybe they'll bump and bang a little bit.
All right, so on to the NASCAR race.
Who's your pick?
I'm sorry, I completely forgot to make my pick. For SRX, I'm going to go Tony Stewart. I think points are on the line. He wants to win this back-to-back years. I think Stewart gets the win. He's pretty good on dirt. I think Stewart gets his second win of the season. It comes down to next week for the championship. So I'm going to go Tony Stewart.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Tony Stewart.
Yeah. Smoke. He's never a bad person to pick.
Not at all. Not at all. So NASCAR, New Hampshire, 301 miles. 301 miles, 301 laps. New Hampshire. My question for you is: does Chevy's win streak come to an end? Or does Chevy win again? And if so, who brings it home on Sunday? Who brings home the lobster, the traditional New Hampshire lobster on Sunday?
That's a good question because I'm down to a Toyota and a Chevy in my pick, and each of them only have one race on the year, I believe, or one win on the year. But I think just because I'm biased and I like Hendrick Motorsports, I think Kyle Larson's going to pull this one out. I think he's done. I don't think he's going to consistently win like last year, but I think he might be able to squeeze by maybe a rain delay, something like that. But I think he'll win it. But like I said, I don't necessarily think Chevy will be dominant throughout the year. Just because he wins here doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be a Chevy show for the rest of the year. I just think he might luck out and win it. But if not, I'm going to stick with Kyle Larson.
Interesting. Well, I think it's going to be a Toyota or Ford this weekend. I think Chevy's streak has got to come to win at some point. It's going to be this weekend. I almost wanted to go with Martin Truex Jr. to win. I think he's due a win.
Right.
Martin Truex Jr. is due a win, but this is a Ford-dominated track. We've seen Brad Keselowski and Eric Almirola win the past two races here. And I think the Ford trend is going to continue at New Hampshire. I'm going to go Ryan Blaney getting his first win of the season.
Good pick. Yeah.
Making it the 13th different winner of the season. Locking his
14th different winner.
14th winner, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
14th winner with 6 races to go before the playoffs.
And Ryan Blaney, he's actually sitting in 14th right now.
Would be a huge
in the points. So if he wins, man, that would leave Martin Truex Jr., Christopher Bell without a win. If they stay as is in the points, Kevin Harvick is 4 points. He's 18 points out from the top 16.
Yeah, I think Harvick has a shot on Sunday.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't seem like that Stuart Haas has had the speed this year. Other
Yeah,
than
I agree
Brooke.
with that. I agree with that.
So I think Ryan Blaney gets the win on Sunday.
That's a solid pick. Yeah, for
So
sure.
a little quicker than usual. Anything else?
Yeah,
Oh,
man.
there
So
was
look,
one thing I was going to mention, and of course I don't remember what it is. Yeah, I do. I was going to ask. I sent you this earlier. I told you I was going to ask you if you could pick. If you funded $30 million for your own race
yeah,
team, you can have the best car money can buy. Whatever you have, $30 million for a salary for one driver. Obviously, that $30 million would be higher than anyone's making right now.
right.
Who is your one driver that you take?
William Byron.
That's exactly where I was going.
Yep,
That's where
William
I'm.
Byron.
That's where I'm.
The guy's young. He's a solid race car driver. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He knows how to win races. I mean, he's won, all throughout Xfinity series. I mean, he's won. He's a race car driver, and he's what I would want, man. Just the character in and of itself is good. I know you and him share college together. He
Yes.
goes to Liberty, you go to Liberty, so
Yes.
I could see that for sure. But yeah, my pick there is William Byron.
Yeah, would definitely pick him in a heartbeat. Young, I'm not going to go. I want to have someone under 26, 25 that
Yeah,
has 8 to 9 years left in the sport.
at least, yeah,
Kyle Larson's 32, I believe. He's not going to be around much longer. I think he's 32, 30.
something. He's
He's not
early
going to be
30s. Yeah,
around as long as you guys like William Byron. Tyler Reddick was kind of another option I've thought of, but
yeah.
consistently, William Byron has been very consistent. And
Every year he's been there. Yeah,
speaking of Tyler Reddick, big news from the 2311 camp this weekend, and news out of absolutely left field that I did not see coming. Tyler
yeah.
Reddick will drive probably, and assuming the 45 car, beginning in 2024. Not only does that trigger a lot of silly season moves, but Tyler Reddick leaving RCR, leaving Chevy altogether for Toyota.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Was this a good move by him?
I think it's a good move. I think Kurt Busch is going to go to the SRX series. I think it's going to last till 2024. I think that's going to be their key to keeping it around, is bringing somebody like Kurt Busch full time. I think he'd be good for that sport, to be honest with you. If he decides not to go into NASCAR, I think that's his next step. I think it's a good move for Tyler Reddick. I think 24 or 2311 is a good team to be with. What I would say, though, is we can't rule out the 23 car being open because, Bubba Wallace, man, if he doesn't win next year, he's on the hot seat, all through next year. I mean, because, he hasn't won this year. He's finished some decent races. I'm not a big fan, but I'm going to give credit where credit's due. He's done a decent job on being consistent, but he's still winning's the game. Cash is king.
Yeah.
And
Unless
so I wouldn't. Yeah, yeah. But I wouldn't rule out the fact that you may not have a guy in the 23 car either. So we might be, I don't know.
I mean, who knows what's going to happen? I mean,
But I think it's a good move for Tyler Reddick, to answer your question. Yes.
Does,
I think
where's Kyle Busch going to end up? Where's Kyle Busch going to end up for next year? Where's, Denny Hamlin? I mean, obviously he's either going to retire or stay in 11. Where's guys like, the 43 is now, the 42 is now open.
Yeah.
With Ty Dillon stepping away, what silly season moves do you see happening this season and next season?
I think Kyle Busch stays in the 18 car. There's a story. What did I see that they team president Dave Alpern. I mean, they said they fully intend on Kyle Busch being in the 18 car next year. Would I love to see a shakeup? Absolutely, I would love to see it because it would blow up NASCAR and it'd make for a fun season next year. But I think they're trying to get that. I think before they sign Kyle Busch as a negotiation tool, they're trying to get a big time sponsor on board before they bring it to him. But I think they don't need to wait much longer. They need to pull the trigger on him and then go to the sponsor.
I have another possible take for you.
All right, what you got?
This would be this would be a par for the course move and would make so much sense. Kyle Busch to the 4 car. If
Is
Harvick
Harvick
decides
leaving?
to hang it up.
I know Almirola's out. He's out of the 10. At least he was. And then they said during the broadcast this week, he's mulling it over. So, but yeah, if Harvick leaves, I could definitely see Tony Stewart going after him for the 4 car. 100% I would. And I think he would enhance that team. The problem is, would he leave Toyota?
Especially when he owns Toyotas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. Does somebody like a Corey LaJoie or a Daniel Suarez get a better ride after their performances this year? I know Trackhouse is doing good. They've got, but like, does somebody like a Richard Petty or somebody like that take a shot on them? Say, hey, man, we got an open ride, better equipment. What you got?
Do you really think Petty's better than what Trackhouse has?
Not necessarily, but for somebody like LaJoie, I think it would be. Yeah.
Better than Spire, yes.
Yeah. Like I could see a Corey LaJoie jumping in the 42 car, 100%. I think right now, Trackhouse Racing, and this is my opinion, it's one of the top 2 hottest teams right now in the sport. I think right now you got Hendrick on a roll, and I think you got Trackhouse right there. I mean, they're right there with them. So I think I wouldn't leave Trackhouse if I was there right now, unless you're Ross Chastain. And that's another option. If Ross Chastain, man, keeps being a liability, I know this year he's safe, but you come around next year and you got Kurt Busch sitting there losing a ride. Ross Chastain still has a year like this. They may boot him and bring Kurt Busch back to a Chevy.
I don't think Kurt Busch has that much longer left in NASCAR.
I don't know. I think if he thought he was going to retire, he would have tried to make things work with his wife. I know that sounds weird, but I think he cares more about racing than he does anything else. And if he's going to have that attitude, I think he plans to stay there until somebody takes him out of the car.
Interesting.
So that's my take on it. I don't like Kurt Busch. I think he's a punk. Him and Jimmy Spencer, got into it a lot, which that's a funny video to watch, by the way. If you ever want to kill like an hour of your time, just go watch him and Jimmy Spencer go at it on YouTube. But I don't know, man. I think he's got some fire, and I don't think he wants to go anywhere. I don't. I mean, I think he's bounced around so much. He's literally raced for every race team but Hendrick Motorsports. He's raced for Penske. He's raced for Roush. He's raced for Stuart Haas. He raced for Dadgum. I mean, he was in the 51 car. I mean, Rick Ware or something like that. I mean, he's raced everywhere, except for Joe Gibbs and Hendrick.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think he wants to be done. He might be done, but I don't think he'll want to be done. I think if he walks away, it's because he was talked into it, not because he wanted to.
Interesting. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a big, silly season going forward.
But I'll say this. If Denny Hamlin ever leaves Joe Gibbs Racing, he's going to drive for 23XI.
I agree, but I also think that if what's going to happen is Kyle Busch it's like your LeBron James, your effect, or your Kevin Durant effect. Whatever Kyle Busch does affects everyone else because.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. 100%.
Here's my thing. Here's our take. Let's say Kyle Busch just wakes up one morning and decides, I want to race for Rick Hendrick again. Let's say they make amends, and he decides, I want to race for Rick Hendrick again. He calls.
Do they put him in the 5 or do they put him in the 88?
I mean the 40. It's like who do you have? And if Kyle Busch calls and says, I want to race for you,
who you booting? I'm booting Bowman.
No, I'm
kicking.
Now here's what I'm doing. Yeah, Bowman. Unless my only thing is if Junior comes into the sport, let's say Junior buys out RCR. That would not surprise me at this point. Let's say Junior buys out RCR.
Or partners or something like that makes a deal with him, yeah. I could totally see JRM merging 100%.
Here's the thing. If I'm Junior, here's what I do if I'm Junior. If I'm Dale Junior, I buy it out completely. You've got the money. You got the cars. You get the two charters. Maybe you buy you have two charters with the 8 and the 3.
Yep, and that's and 8 and 3 are Earnhardt straight up.
Exactly. First thing you do is fire Austin Dillon. Easy. If it happens this year, here's what happens. Here's what would be the most wild thing that happened. Here's what I'd love to see happen. If you do make the move and let Austin Dillon go, you bring Kyle Busch in the 3, Chase Elliott in the 8.
I think. See, here's me, and I'm on board with you 100%. I could see him totally buying Hendrick or Childress Racing or merging and doing like a Stuart Haas thing. But I'm buying the 88 from Rick Hendrick. I'm keeping it if I'm Dale Jr. because it's my number. I kind of made it what it is in the 88. I'm holding on to it, and I don't necessarily know if I would put Kyle Busch in the 3 car. I don't know. I might put him in the 88. I might retire the 3 car if it's me. But I do see Chase Elliott coming over with him. But definitely Chase and Junior would go after Kyle Busch. No doubt in my mind he would go after Kyle Busch. But do you think if Junior gets back into sprint into Cup Series, is Junior going to race full time again for his own race team?
Never.
I think he would do a few races here and there.
Yeah, never full time. I think you have 3 cars, 2 full time, 1 part time that you could maybe bring Jimmy Johnson back for a couple of races. Race a couple on your own. Maybe bring on
Jeff Gordon. Put Jeff Gordon in the car. Something. Yeah. Well, I don't know if Gordon would do that with conflict of interest, but.
Well, I mean, speaking of conflict of interest, I mean, look at Denny Hamlin. He owns a team, but he races for a different team.
Yeah.
That is a big conflict of interest.
So speaking of people that I would like to see back in a race car, anybody who's raced from 2000 and now, you could bring them back to race in a race car. Who'd you do?
Tony Stewart, hands down.
Darrell Waltrip. And if I'm Dale Jr. and Darrell Waltrip wants to race one more race, I'm putting him in that 88 car and I'm letting him run a race because he originally was the 88 car. I love DW, man. Boogity boogity, baby. Boogity boogity.
Conditioned enough to do that?
I don't know, man. But hey, YOLO, right?
I mean, if I'm bringing for one race,
Tony Stewart would be the logical choice. Yes.
Do you mean for one race or one season?
No, like a race. Like if they want to come in and race.
One race.
You bring him back for Talladega or Daytona. That's your race. Talladega or Daytona.
Rusty Wallace.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'd take mine back, Dale Jarrett.
If he's got good equipment.
Put him in an RCR car. Probably do okay.
I'm saying I'm going Rusty. I just would love
to see I like that pick, man. That's a good pick.
Rusty, maybe give Ryan Newman a good car. I mean, we've seen how bad we know how bad Roush is. Roush is.
How about Jeremy Mayfield?
Yes, NASCAR owes him a chance. NASCAR owes.
They do, man, because they screwed him big time.
Did you hear Dale Jr.'s podcast about that?
I didn't. I mean, I heard that there was mention of it, but I didn't hear the whole thing.
Yeah, the NASCAR really screwed him. It wasn't NASCAR specifically. It was one doctor in NASCAR. NASCAR screwed him over, then Ray Evernham screwed him over even more. Yeah,
because didn't he drive for Evernham? Wasn't that who it was for?
They made amends. Ray Evernham has made amends with him as they're considering having him in SRX next year. But yeah, NASCAR really screwed him over.
Yeah, but
you know what? Also, I would love to bring Bill Elliott back. Not my favorite. Would love to bring him back. Bring back somebody from the 2000 those older NASCAR days, 2002, 2000 to 2010. From those days,
David Rudiman.
He was never that consistent.
No, he wasn't. But give him a good car, see what he could do. Because Michael Waltrip had terrible equipment. No doubt.
Martin Truex barely made the playoffs with him.
I'll tell you this though: you put Michael Waltrip in good equipment in NASCAR and a plate race, that Joker will be in the front because even with the crappy equipment he had, he was like pushing people to the lead.
Agreed. There's two more guys I'd love to see come back. One of them, I think, could do it. One of them can't because of health. That's Casey King.
Yeah.
Love to see him back, but I don't know how we forgot this guy. Former driver of the 5 car. Mark Martin.
Yeah. I heard they're trying to get him an SRX next year.
Would love to see Mark Martin back in NASCAR in some way. He's definitely fit enough. And
Yeah, I agree with that.
Brian Vickers.
Yeah, Brian Vickers would be good. I had somebody, man, I lost him just now. What was it? But no, I agree with you. I mean, this shakeup, man, this offseason is going to be interesting to see. The big one, though, everybody's waiting on is Kyle Busch, man. That's the big one because that's going to dictate the trajectory of the whole entire sport.
Right.
Straight up.
I mean, it takes everything. The question is,
he's the LeBron James of NASCAR. He is.
He is, minus the cockiness, I think. It's there, but it's not. But let's say that Kyle Busch does. Let's say for some reason Gibbs drops the ball and Kyle Busch bolts anywhere,
right.
Regardless of where Kyle Busch goes. Does Joe Gibbs drop the ball again and hire someone not named Ty Gibbs? Or does Joe Gibbs do what the logical explanation? Does he go what he should do and hire Ty Gibbs? Or does he drop the ball again and make it much worse?
If they lose Kyle Busch, they're going to go Ty Gibbs. I can pretty much guarantee it. I don't think they would make that mistake. I think because to me, Ty Gibbs could be potentially, and I'm not comparing him to Kyle Busch, but he could potentially be a rock for that team that you need because the guy's a solid race car driver.
I could see a quote unquote trade between the 12 and the 18 is that I could see.
Yeah, I could. I could see Blaney going. I could see Blaney going there.
I could see that happening. But, other than that.
I'm going to tell you right now, though, I would not be shocked if you see Kyle Busch in the 23 car and you see Bubba Wallace in the 18.
I just don't get that.
I wouldn't want it, but if you want to talk about dropping the ball, that'd be dropping the ball.
I can see that happening. But here's my question. Do I think Bubba could win in the 18? Yes, he's a very good plate racer that's been plagued by a bad pit crew. Who knows what can happen when he's up front?
Yeah.
Here's my thing. Why would you – 2311 is a downgrade from Gibbs. Well, who in their right mind would do that? Like, who would sit there and think –
It wouldn't be by Kyle Busch's choice. No. I think Kyle Busch would only end up at 2311 if they dropped the ball on Kyle and then they went and got Bubba Wallace.
Do you get – who knows? I don't see Kyle leaving Toyota. That's the thing.
No, I don't either. And there's not really another Toyota manufacturer in the whole entire thing. It's either 2311 or it's Gibbs. That's it. Or you go to one of the small teams, and he definitely ain't doing that.
Unless he buys it out.
Or he brings in KBM.
I just think at some point, if you're Kyle, you've got to do something.
I can see Kyle Busch bringing his team into the Cup Series with the 54 car.
It's going to get interesting to see what happens. It's going to get interesting to see, if Kyle Busch re-signs and all is normal. But if Kyle Busch doesn't re-sign, that sets a whole set of things in motion that we really don't want to go in motion.
And I think you're going to see Tyler Reddick in the 45 car a lot sooner than you think.
Agreed.
I think he'll be in the 45 car next year.
Really?
I do.
I don't.
Because I've been seeing stuff for a while that Kyle Busch is not. He doesn't really seem too happy at Gibbs. I think Kyle Busch is going to bring KBM up there, and I think he's going to bring his brother on board, and they're both going to race.
Now, I think it's going to end up going. Kyle Busch is going to. I think at some point 2311 needs a third car. They've got the money. They need a third car.
Yeah, it's just all about the charters.
It's about the charters, but at what point do you like, at what point do you like? Everything a wrench is going to be thrown into all this. Let's say Kurt competes for a championship. Bubba gets a win, competes for a championship. What happens then?
You buy a car. You got the money. No, you do. Yeah, the problem is to get another charter, you're going to have to buy out another team, and you're going to have to just kill it, kill the team, and keep the charter.
Agreed.
So, well, but we could speculate all day, man. I mean, this could go any way. We talk about it. Me and you talk about it all the time. We're texting about it about every day. Like, hey, here's an idea. Here's that idea. Like,
we could wake up. I mean, the thing is, here's my thing. And I told somebody this when I asked them the same question, same thing when I ask you about what driver I take. I give a driver like William Byron $15 million, be making well more than he's making now. I paid Denny Hamlin $15 million to come on as my CEO or whatever. Denny Hamlin knows how to run a race team. Like,
Tony Stewart, in my opinion, knows how to run a race team.
Hamlin and Stewart, these former drivers know how to run race teams. Like, who else would have just randomly decided on a Monday morning, oh, I want Tyler Reddick, and then 24 hours later he's on your team? I heard, and I think this is true, that was not like when Tyler Reddick won that race last week. None of this had even been thought about necessarily.
Yeah,
this all came to fruition within the last week. Denny Hamlin knows how to own a race team. Does he pull a rabbit out of the hat and be like, oh, we're gonna bring him the 35 car with Kyle Busch, or we're gonna add, another car?
I'll say this. I know the 18 has been an integral part of Joe Gibbs Racing, but if Kyle Busch leaves, he's going to buy that 18. Kyle Busch will keep the 18 because that's Kyle Busch. Yeah, it's Kyle Busch. I mean, I think that even if he goes to 2311, it's a Joe Gibbs car anyway. I mean, essentially 2311. Say he went there, stayed in Toyota, he'd keep the 18 car because it's it's Joe Gibbs engines. Bubba Wallace and I think it was Kyle switched crews for this week.
Christopher Bell.
I knew it was Joe Gibbs. I knew it was something. They switched crews this week. So, I mean, they're Joe Gibbs, they're like Petty is to Hendrick, they're getting the engines, they're getting the shop. I think if Kyle Busch leaves Joe Gibbs, I think Joe Gibbs stays at 3 cars, or they bring back the 96 car, and you see Ty Gibbs running the 96.
Interesting.
That's speculation, but I could see Kyle Busch with his brand, Rowdy. I could see him totally keeping the 18 car or doing his best to keep it.
Interesting. It's going to get interesting.
And if they can't find a sponsor, and I heard somebody say this, I don't know if it was on Fox Sports this week or not, but if they don't find a sponsor soon, Kyle Busch is going to start shopping around with Rowdy Energy as a sponsor. Because I know Rowdy Energy's probably got enough to at least sponsor a few races.
Interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens.
It'll be weird. It's gonna be crazy, man.
It's gonna be interesting to see where he goes, because whatever Kyle Busch does, domino effect.
Oh, and if we're talking about bringing back old drivers, Jamie McMurray, that's who I'd bring back.
Yeah, restrictor plate. Nobody better.
Yeah,
nobody better.
I agree.
Well, all right, that's about all I got. Maybe we'll have some more crazy news within the next week.
I hope so, man. Maybe they'll SRX will get a little bit crazy on the dirt race. Maybe we'll know where Kyle Busch is going this time next week. Maybe we'll know he's not going anywhere. But hey, there wasn't a penalty handed down this week in NASCAR, as far as I know. No tire come off the car, so we've definitely got a progression there. So
yep,
for sure.
All right. That's all I got. You got anything else?
I'm good, man. Y'all have a good rest of the week. Follow us on Twitter.
Follow us on Twitter I'm going to put that up real quick. Or no, I'm not, because it's not there, but yeah, it is.
Pitbox_podcast. Yep.
Follow us on Twitter and, of course, our main account. And we'll see y'all next week.
For sure.